Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. Women remain children all their lives, for they always see only what is near at hand. Cling to the present. Take the appearance of a thing for reality and prefer trifling matters to the most important. There are two things which make it impossible to believe that this world is the successful work of an all-wise, all-good, and at the same time all-powerful being. Firstly, the misery which abounds in it everywhere, and secondly, the obvious imperfection of its highest product, man, who is a burlesque of what he should be. Human life must be some kind of mistake. The truth of this will be sufficiently obvious if we only remember that man is a compound of needs and necessities, hard to satisfy, and that even when they are satisfied, all he obtains is a state of painlessness where nothing remains to him but abandonment to boredom. If children were brought into the world by an act of pure reason alone, would the human race continue to exist? Would not a man rather have so much sympathy with the coming generation as to spare it the burden of existence, or at any rate not take it upon himself to impose that burden upon it in cold blood? If the world were a paradise of luxury and ease, a land flowing with milk and honey, where every jack obtained his Jill at once and without any difficulty, men would either die of boredom or hang themselves, or there would be wars, massacres, and murders, so that in the end mankind would inflict more suffering on itself than it has now to accept at the hands of nature. A man is never happy, but spends his whole life in striving after something that he thinks will make him so. He seldom attains his goal, and when he does, it is only to be disappointed. He is mostly shipwrecked in the end, and comes into harbor with mast and rigging gone. And then it is all one whether he is happy or miserable, for his life was never anything more than a present moment always vanishing, and now it's over. It is only the man whose intellect is clouded by his sexual instinct that could give that stunt, narrow-shouldered, broad-hipped, and short-legged race the name of fair sex, for the entire beauty of the sex is based on this instinct. One would be more justified in calling them the unesthetic sex than the beautiful, neither for music nor for poetry nor for fine arts have they any real or true sense and susceptibility, and it is more mockery on their part in their desire to please if they affect any such thing. To buy books would be a good thing if we also could buy the time to read them. As the biggest library, if it is in disorder, is not as useful as a small but well-arranged one, so you may accumulate a vast amount of knowledge, but it will be of far less value than a much smaller amount if you have not thought it over for yourself. A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom. For it is only when he is alone that he is really free. Every nation ridicules other nations, and all are right. The brain may be regarded as a kind of parasite of the organism, a pensioner, as it were, who dwells with the body. It is only a man's own fundamental thoughts that have truth and life in them, for it is these that he really and completely understands. To read the thoughts of others is like taking the remains of someone else's meal, like putting on the discarded clothes of a stranger. We can come to look upon the deaths of our enemies with as much regret as we feel for those of our friends, namely, when we miss their existence as witnesses to our success. A high degree of intellect tends to make a man unsocial. All truth passes through three stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. A pessimist is an optimist in full possession of the facts. It is difficult to find happiness within oneself, but it is impossible to find it anywhere else. The majority of men are not capable of thinking, but only of believing, and are not accessible to reason, but only to authority. To overcome difficulties is to experience the full delight of existence. A man must have grown old and lived long in order to see how short life is. Education perverts the mind, since we are directly opposing the natural development of our mind by obtaining ideas first and observations last. This is why so few men of learning have such sound common sense as is quite common among the illiterate. You are free to do what you want, but you are not free to what you want. To be a philosopher, that is to say, a lover of wisdom. For wisdom is nothing but truth. It is not enough for a man to love truth, insofar as it is compatible with his own interest, with the will of his superiors, with the dogmas of the church, or with the prejudice and tastes of his contemporaries. So long as he rests content with this position, he is only a philetus, not a philosophus, a lover of self, not a lover of wisdom. For this title of honor is well and wisely conceived precisely by its stating that one should love the truth earnestly and with one's whole heart, and thus unconditionally and unreservedly, above all else, and if need be in defense of all else. Now the reason for this is the one previously stated, that the intellect has become free, and in this state it does not even know or understand any other interest than that of truth. For our improvement, we need a mirror.